You get some fucking balls on you, boy.
Balls will get you through the door. Brains will keep you in the room. And now that I'm in the room, what you gonna do about it?
So it finally seems like we're getting some news on Power Book 4 Force in the next 10 days, and I expect them to hit us with our first look teaser for Season 2. So in this video, I'm going to be running through every single clue, prediction and theories going into this new season of Force, and I'm going to split this video into 3 parts. We're going to run through a quick overview and a recap of how Force finished their storyline in Season 1, the new players and their character profiles, and then we're going to wrap up with every clue, theory and some predictions, because I do have a lot of back and forth and conversations with a few of the cast members from Force on Twitter, who are really great by the way. They're always humble and open to talking about power, old and new, and it's always great talking with Joseph, Chris Lofton and Brian Keyes, who plays Agent Vargas on Force. But I think we're going to learn more about Tommy's backstory in Season 2, something which I did question at the time in Season 1. Why did Kate Egan keep Tommy away from his grandmother? But we're going to get into that later on. But down below you'll find the chapters of the video, so you can skip to whichever part of the story you like. So the first things first, a quick overview and a recap of Season 1. Now at the beginning of Force, Tommy was on the way to California, but he made a quick pit stop to Chicago to see his grandmother. Now one thing led to another and he uncovered some secrets that Kate Egan had been keeping. He had a brother who goes by the name JP. Now he came to Chicago with nothing but a bit of cash, a burner, and as he met JP, he uncovered the truth about DMAC, and so he found a reason to stay. Now he sandwiched himself between 2 of Chicago's biggest drug dealing families, the Flynns and the CBI, where he struck up a partnership with Claudia and Diamond, but the partnership with Claudia definitely turned sour thanks to Walter Flynn. On the other hand, his relationship with Diamond grew stronger, which was further fueled by Jannard, who betrayed his brother. Now Tommy also came across a familiar scar, Liliana. Liliana was one of Tommy and Ghost Runner, which dated back to Season 1, Episode 1 of Power, and it really was a cool Easter egg and a clever way for the writers to bring an old character back who Tommy once wanted to ice. We then saw them building a close bond, but in typical Power fashion, they ripped her away from Tommy at the end of Season 1. So Tommy lost Liliana and now finds himself working with JP and Diamond. Now Tommy finds himself pretty much in the same position when he entered Chicago. He's got no connect, he's got no product, and he's no longer fucking with Dahlia, a designer drug that he came across when he was in partnership with Claudia, but he has gained JP and Diamond. Now when Tommy entered a new city which has its own crime families and its own set of rules, Tommy was of course going to ruffle some feathers, and so he was bound to create some enemies, especially as he set his sights on taking Chicago. Now at the end of Force, there was Claudia who killed Liliana, the rest of the Flynn family, and also Jannard. When it comes to Diamond, the moment he realized his brother betrayed him, this broke him. This was his younger brother, someone who he grew up with and someone who held the CBI down while he was in prison, but that was the foundation of their issues. Diamond came out of prison and took back his organization, an organization which Jannard held down during their period where Diamond was in prison and things had changed on the streets. Diamond held on to his own traditional ways which he shared with Tommy, where they built their empires brick by brick the old-fashioned way, which is probably why we saw them on the same page. But this is something which irritated Jannard. Tommy came to Chicago and wanted to take over, and he was thinking, who's this guy walking into my hometown, taking territory, and telling us how we can and can't do business? But we all know Tommy, he's never hid away from the streets, and even though he's had to adapt being in Chicago, we saw him making a lot more smarter and strategic plays without Ghost, and he still maintained a lot of his Christmas cancelling ways. Now from Jannard's point of view, I do get where he's coming from. He held down the CBI and Diamond came in and wanted to revert back to the old ways, and he was happy to take on board Tommy's advice but not his younger brother's. Now with Walter Flynn, their relationship is on thin ice as much as Diamond and Jannard's, and that's thanks to manipulation and lies from Walter Flynn, a theme that we're way too familiar with now in the Power universe, controlling and manipulating parents. Similar to how I say Diana will grow up to be arguably the most dangerous to Harder, I see the same for Claudia. As Season 1 progressed, we saw her becoming darker and darker, from getting her first kill to then killing Liliana, and you can definitely tell, despite the traditions and values of the Flynns, of how there's always been a male leader, she wants to be the head of the honcho. Elsewhere we had DMAC ending up in hospital, Kate's return, Markovich will definitely be sticking around for Season 2, but something that I think we'll have a bigger focus on is law enforcement, with Agent Vargas and Kayla, especially with the crossover that we saw with Blanca Rodriguez, as well as Jenny Sullivan, which does bring me nicely onto the first new player. So this is Stacey Marks, who's from Chicago's South Side. She first worked as a public defender before earning her way into the US Attorney's office. She's an independent self-starter who's hungry and ready to make a name for herself. Now, we all know Tommy's dead in New York, and he still remains a bit of a ghost to those in Chicago, but based on Tommy being snapped in these images, I really wouldn't be surprised if his cover was blown sooner or later, especially if Blanca Rodriguez gets her hands on these pictures, but it does seem like Stacey Marks will have a big role to play. She's worked as a public defender before and she's earned her way into the US Attorney's office, and this tells me she's someone who's not afraid to put the work in, and she's ambitious. Now, this is Shanti's showstopper Paige. She's a prize ex-boxer who now owns her own gym. She's fearless and ambitious, a dangerous combination. Now, when it comes to Shanti, she runs her own gym, but what her past is and who she knows is yet to be seen, because the first thing that springs to mind is Diamond, who's also an ex-boxer. But regardless of whether they know each other from the past or not, she seems like someone who's going to be a bit of a tough cookie. Maria Garcia. She's smart, direct, with a sense of humor. She's strong-willed, guarded, and not afraid to call you on your bad behavior. She's also the younger sister of the most dangerous Mexican drug dealer in the city. Now, she seems like she's a younger sister of Miguel Garcia, who's a mean, violent, domineering alpha male. He's never been in a long-term relationship, and that's because he lives to make money, but will do anything to protect the ones he loves. Now, Miguel Garcia and Maria Garcia seem like they're two characters who are going to be connected to the Mexican drug cartel that we're going to be introduced to in Season 2. Now, in an interview, Chris Lofton teased how they were going to go bigger and better, and how they're opening new doors, for example, exploring the Mexican drug cartel. Now, he said they're going to be exploring this power narcos type of thing and the real cartel vibe, so it feels and sounds as if this is a beginning of a brand new chapter under Gary Lennon, who's a new showrunner of Force. And those who know who Gary Lennon is, he's one of the Power OGs, and just like they've elevated Power Book 2 Go Season 3, I'm expecting much of the same for Force, with the introduction of the new Mexican cartel. A Mexican cartel which I do expect Tommy to work with, because we all know Tommy is not fucking with Dahlia, and after the loss of Liliana, I do think Tommy needs to regroup. At this moment in time, in his corner is Diamond, JP, and D-Mac, who he wants a better life for. He warned him about the dangers of the drug game, and where he's seen one nephew go down the wrong path. I do think he's going to want to avoid the same happening with D-Mac. However, we all know it's never as simple as that, and so I expect there to be a lot of complications as Tommy starts to build back his organization, and tries to keep his family safe, and that includes Kate Egan. Now, when Tommy came to Chicago, he uncovered some secrets, but where I only believe they've just scratched the surface in terms of his backstory. So I do want to bring you guys into a conversation I had with Patricia Kalemba on Twitter, and for those who don't know, she's the actress who plays Kate Egan. She was called the worst TV mom of all time, but I came in with my own perspective. I said that Kate was always right. She may have not been the best of moms, but she always wanted the best for Tommy. For example, she warned Tommy about Holly, she called Teresi the devil, and she also warned Tommy about Lakeisha, and she was right about all three. I then followed up with, as many people would believe she was a bad mother, she was someone who was very wise. They always say trust your mother's instinct, and Kate was right on all three occasions, which is why I do think there's more story to with Tommy's grandmother. There's definitely a reason why she kept Tommy away. Now, Patricia, who played Kate, did chip in again, and she said more will be revealed in Season 2. Now, this is something I did question at the time. Why did Kate Egan keep Tommy away from his grandmother? There has to be a deeper backstory and a reason behind her decisions. So this is one of the storylines I'm looking forward to seeing. Why did Kate keep her away from this family in Chicago? And what other secrets is she hiding? So let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. Now, as we've learned throughout Power, and I'm sure as many of us have learned throughout life, blood doesn't necessarily make you family, loyalty does. But this was something that was broken between Diamond and Jannard. Jannard had his way of handling business, and Diamond had other ideas. And at the end of Season 2, Diamond held his gun to Jannard, and should he have pulled the trigger? It's definitely a tough one. It's a relationship that's been plagued with lies and betrayal, but I also do see them working together again for the greater good. Brothers fight all the time, and we even saw Tommy and Ghost trying to kill each other towards the end of Power in Season 6. But every relationship is different, and with Gary Lennon as the new showrunner, he may bring new ideas, and who knows, he may bring the brothers back together. But can Jannard be trusted in the long term? I definitely don't think so. Now, where do I start with the Flynns? A family which is completely disjointed, a family where everybody has their own ideas of how they should be running their organization, and a family which is brought together at the end of Season 1 through lies and manipulation. This is the reason why I do think there's going to be some big problems for the Flynns. For Claudia, she wants a seat at the table, where we saw her sitting in Walter Flynn's seat at the beginning of Season 1, and no doubt, she has dreams of one day running the Flynn family organization. But will Walter Flynn ever let that happen? I'm going to come to an important detail in just a moment. Now with Vic, he was living a double life. He had one foot in, one foot out, where he wanted to live this fairy tale with Gloria, but that's not how the game works. And he had to make a choice which I think was made for him through Walter Flynn's manipulation. And so we saw him gunning for Tommy. So these are two characters I do expect to be on a collision course in Season 2. But let's not get it twisted. There's only ever going to be one winner, and it's definitely not Vic Flynn. It's going to be the Christmas Canceller. Now with Walter Flynn, he was battling an illness, and his stubbornness didn't help him either, and neither did his manipulation. Sooner or later, these kids are going to turn on their father, just like we're seeing with Rock and Kanan in Power Book 3, and in Power Book 2 Ghost with the Tejadas. But something I touched on earlier with Claudia, I want to learn about who the bosses Walter Flynn answers to. They made reference to bigger bosses in Ireland, so I do hope we get introduced to whoever they are. Now, with law enforcement, Tommy's a ghost, but we saw this crossover with Blanca Rodriguez wanting to investigate this absolute mayhem in Chicago. So could we see Blanca Rodriguez pick up these pictures and come over to Chicago to come after Tommy in force? I think this crossover will be more so with law enforcement, and Tommy may want to watch his back. And it is interesting to see how they navigate the streets of Chicago, considering he's dead in New York, and especially if these pictures land on Blanca Rodriguez's desk, because there will be heavy focus on law enforcement, especially with the introduction of Stacey Marks. So with that being said, that's some news on Force, a breakdown of where we are with some clues, theories, and predictions going into Season 2. But as always, with Power, I expect them to bring the unexpected. So this video is probably only scratching the surface, because we should be expecting some big changes in Force. And I'm excited to see the teaser and see what work Gary Lennon, Joseph Sikora, and what the cast and crew have been working on. But drop all your thoughts and theories down below on all things Force Season 2. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.